In today's video, we're going to focus on the ultimate cheat sheet that you can use to your advantage in this Bitcoin cycle, and we're going to be comparing all the previous other cycles in Bitcoin's price history to better understand what sort of roadmap we have ahead of us. So subscribe to the channel for more videos like this in the future. Like this video if you enjoy content like this going forward, and let's dive right into it. So right over here we have a accumulation period, and this accumulation period is something we tend to see across time, and it's the accumulation period that tends to precede a bull market phase in the Bitcoin market cycle, and this is exactly where we are right now. So just to give you some context as to where we are in the cycle right now, this right over here, this accumulation, this graphic actually isn't up to date, and it's actually not my graphic, it's something I found on Twitter, but this graphic isn't up to date, and I'll show you where exactly this graphic considers price action in actually my chart here. So this graphic right over here ends right over in this reaccumulation period, and we've since had two accumulation periods. In fact, we've had one of the largest reaccumulation structures and periods in this cycle of around 200 days before we've transitioned into the post-halving parabolic upside phase of the cycle. And these reaccumulation periods tend to occur for 150, 160, as is the case here, 163 days here and 205 days here, and they then transition price into the parabolic phase of the cycle. So with that little digression here, we're only in week 3. We've only just begun week 3 in the bull phase here, and that's probably one of the most exciting things about Bitcoin's current price action, is that we are in the bull phase, the parabolic phase of the cycle. We're beginning week 3 right now, and typically this bull phase can last a decent amount of time, quite a long time. It can be up to a year, and even worst case scenario, if we see this phase play out over less than a year, so 300 days or so, that still means that we have 300 days pretty much left in this cycle. And we tend to see Bitcoin cycle through its phases: 1 year bear market, and then we go into an accumulation period, which then transitions price into the bull market phase. Always a 1 year bear market period. It's always 360 days or so. In this cycle we saw maybe 390 days at maximum, but it's always a year long, this bear cycle. And then this accumulation period, this can last actually a year and a half, where we just move sideways, and around the halving we also tend to move sideways here as well. So this probably factors in the reaccumulation period after the halving. So it really depends on how it's looked at, really, because this looks like March 2020, post-halving reaccumulation right over here, and then the parabolic phase in the cycle. So in actual fact, this graphic is a little bit off in the sense that it doesn't consider the entire parabolic phase of the cycle. It actually considers reaccumulation. So how I'd adjust this is, this would be reaccumulation, and this would also be reaccumulation, and this would also be reaccumulation right over here, and then it transitions into the parabolic phase of the cycle. So this reaccumulation that I'm talking about is this post-halving reaccumulation period. So to say that this is a bull phase, that's actually technically quite true, but notice how we see that first uptrend, then reaccumulation for multiple months, and then the parabolic phase of the cycle begins. Once again, we have that initial bull phase here in the pre-halving period, and then we have that accumulation, reaccumulation phase, and then the parabolic phase of the cycle. So that's going to be my point of contention with this graphic, but nonetheless, it's a really poignant and really informational, educational graphic that can give us an idea as to what to expect going forward. So 300 days of bullish price action towards the upside, that's something really we can start to prepare for. And just notice how, 2018, that's the bear market, 2019 is the accumulation period, 2020 is the latter part of that accumulation period, and then 2021 is probably the most parabolic phase in the cycle. And just notice how 2013, 2021 and 2017, those are going to be the most parabolic phases in the cycle, and that's 2025, which is really a month and a half away. And so that's where things are going to really start getting crazy. And to just give you an idea as to what that's going to really look like, 2021 is a really good corollary and analogous year for Bitcoin's price action when it comes to 2025, then you can see just what lays ahead and how early we are still in this parabolic phase of the cycle. When it comes to 2021, we saw for really a very long time this parabolic phase, that first uptrend. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we had 2 dips in an otherwise uninterrupted uptrend before we rallied into still a few more weeks of upside. So some 10 weeks, 11 weeks of upside in the price discovery uptrend, this first price discovery uptrend before we saw a corrective period right over here. And so this corrective period, in fact, it only lasted some 2 to 3, maybe 4 weeks. And you can see how in later stages of the cycle, these retraces can actually get shallower, which only showcases the premium buying and aggressiveness in that premium buying behavior on any pullbacks in latter stages of the parabolic phase of the cycle. And so we only have maybe 3 major retraces. This is probably the most notable one of 53% in May for about 3 months or so, and this one right over here. So we tend to get 3 major retraces across cycles in the parabolic phase in of itself, and so we haven't yet seen that retrace in this cycle, but it still lays ahead, and we haven't really seen too many dips. So maybe we need to see a few more dipping moments in Bitcoin's price action. And if we actually conceptualize that we have maybe 3 major corrections in this parabolic phase of the cycle, then people are going to treat dips very, very differently, because, well, they're really brief, short-lived, short-term 10%, maybe 15% dipping opportunities before we rally higher. And so this graphic right over here, it does segment where we are in the cycle, but it doesn't tell us anything about these price discovery uptrends, these dips, and that's fine, because this is a really good graphic when it comes to market cycle analysis. But we're going to be talking about the specific phases in this bull cycle, and specifically probably the second half of that bull cycle when it comes to price discovery. And price discovery tends to have a few price discovery uptrends as per in green, and we can see maybe 4 up to 4. It's usually 3 to 4 price discovery uptrends, and usually 3 major price discovery corrections. And so we are in week 3 when it comes to this current cycle. This is week 3 in the price discovery uptrend, and that very first price discovery uptrend, and it just gives you an idea as to where we are in the cycle compared to 2021. Maybe we dip a little bit now, or maybe we still have some dipping opportunities ahead, and we need to climb a little bit higher before we see a bit more dipping opportunities. So this dip, it's only the very beginning of the week. And when we move and zoom in here, you can see that every single weekly candle has some sort of downside wick to it in an uptrend. So these sorts of uptrending candles, this is a typical normal uptrend, but we still see downside volatility as part of that uninterrupted uptrend in the dipping opportunities. And of course, we also see upside wicks in each of these weekly candles, which only demonstrate to us that we tend to also see rejection at resistances at a little bit higher price levels. But that's normal. Rejections and short-term dips are normal because they proceed further upside. And you can see how we tend to, for example, here we were rejecting in this candle and this candle, and then we actually break beyond there and turn that into support. In the same thing here as well, we reject from these 2 levels here, and then we turn that into support and rally higher. And it's going to be the same thing in this cycle as well. We just need to be cognizant of the fact that we're forming new weekly levels. There's one here, and there's one here as well. So if we form a downside wick briefly right over here, and of course we are forming an upside wick here, but if we form a downside wick and then continue higher, then that's just going to showcase to us that last week this was a weekly resistance, and this week we might actually be turning it into a new support. And so this is all normal price behavior and price action in the very first initial price discovery uptrend, and this is an uninterrupted uptrend. It's only just begun after a period of 8 months of just psychological boredom, whereby it was just consolidation for an extended period of time, and now price is ready to enjoy the fruits of the labor that consolidation offered to Bitcoin, because this is Bitcoin's way of showcasing to us that we're exchanging hands between buyers and sellers, and bargain buyers are garnering in strength, sellers are getting washed out from the market, and now it's all about buyers being in control, and we need to allow for this trend to fully emerge and for the buyers to really enjoy the fruits of their labor and their actions in the form of dollar cost averaging at these regions right over here. And now we're going to see this price discovery uptrend really start to emerge and flourish. But of course, at some point in the future, weeks away still, we're going to have a multi-week price discovery correction. And even before then, we're going to have dipping opportunities. So it's really important to be prepared for both. At the moment, it is buy the dip season, and it's also altcoin season. But then at some point, we're going to see strictly Bitcoin season. And then we're going to see a season where everything pulls back, and that's going to be one of the more higher probability dollar cost averaging moments in the market for both altcoins and Bitcoin. And it's a high probability correction because the first price discovery correction is typically the one where we reverse from into an uptrend, and the second correction is also relatively high probability as well. But the third one, that's probably going to be the riskiest one. It's also going to be the shortest and most shallow one. But you don't want to be dollar cost averaging into a fourth major correction, because that's probably going to be the bear market. That's going to be a year long. So we've covered all the different phases that lay ahead in this parabolic phase of the cycle. We've covered also the general Bitcoin market cycle and where we are in the cycle, and how this graphic perhaps falls a little bit short and isn't quite up to date. But nonetheless, we are currently in this phase of the Bitcoin market cycle, and we're going to be segmenting them into more specifics so that we can really be prepared for what lays ahead. And if you want to stay tuned, subscribe to the channel, feel free to check the Rekt Capital newsletter in the link in the description down below and sign up for cutting edge insights 3 times a week. Bitcoin on Monday, altcoin markets on Wednesdays, and Fridays altcoin newsletters. So lots to enjoy in the Rekt Capital newsletter, and lots to enjoy also here on the YouTube channel. So feel free to check out the Rekt Capital newsletter and sign up today, and also subscribe to the YouTube channel here. And of course, like this video if you'd like to see more videos like this in the future. I'm Rekt Capital, and I'll speak to you soon.